Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and my law firm assists physicians with employment contract issues. Today, I'm going to talk about how much does tail insurance cost for an anesthesiologist. So, first, you need to identify what type of malpractice insurance is in your contract. So, if you have a claims-made policy, it will require tail insurance, and then in the contract, it's going to state who is responsible for paying the tail cost. If you have an occurrence-based coverage plan, tail insurance is not necessary. So in that event, it wouldn't matter how much tail costs. The last type of insurance would be if you're working for a large healthcare network and they're self-insured. In that scenario, it's very unlikely that the physician would have to pay tail insurance. So in this scenario, it really would only apply if you're working for either a physician-owned group or maybe like a small individual hospital that has a claims-made policy. So that's the first thing you need to do. Next, how much does tail insurance cost? So a good rule of thumb is tail insurance is around twice what your annual premium is. And so your annual premium is simply how much it costs to insure you on an annual basis. So you would just take that amount, multiply that times 2, and that's how much the tail insurance would cost. It can vary somewhere between 1.5 all the way to 3 times what your annual premium is, and that would be based upon claims history and then length of time with the employer. But most of the time, the vast majority of the time, around twice your annual premium would be a normal amount. Now, how much is an annual premium for an anesthesiologist? It depends upon where you are. It does vary state by state. Some states have very strong caps on malpractice damages, which then reduces the insurance needed for physicians, like Texas, for instance. And then other states have either no caps or very little caps, and so the insurance in those states could be much more expensive. It would be unlikely that an anesthesiologist would have a policy for less than $10,000 a year, and depending upon what types of procedures you're doing, it could be much more than that. Somewhere between 10 to 20 a year would be, I would say, an average amount based upon the factors I just said. Now, let's say you're a physician and you're required to pay tail insurance. How do you pay it? Well, the employment contract will very likely state that you have to secure the tail insurance prior to the termination of the contract. So maybe by the last week of your employment with the employer, you would have to secure the policy, pay the amount. It's a one-time payment. So it's not like tail insurance is a yearly thing. You just pay one time and it covers however long the tail lasts. And that's up to you. You could buy a tail policy for 2 years, 5 years, indefinite. And then that will have an effect on the cost as well. Some companies do accept payment plans for tail insurance costs, but most of them require just the entire amount up front. So it's not, like a tiny amount of money. So it's definitely worth planning for that. If you're going to leave an employer and you're required to pay the tail, you need to anticipate that and set a little money aside. Now, a couple ways around having to pay for tail. Well, obviously, negotiating in advance before signing the contract and making certain that the employer covers it. That's one way. 2, having your new employer pay your old tail. That's called nose coverage. And so that would be almost like a quasi-signing bonus in some way, but that would be one way around it. And then the third way would be if you're staying within the same state usually, but more importantly, if you're staying with the same insurance company with your new job. So usually in that scenario would be if you're going from a physician-owned group to another physician-owned group. If it's the same insurance company, they'll usually just roll over the policy into your new policy. And that way you don't have to pay for tail at all. Obviously, it's impossible to anticipate, when you accept a job, where your next job is going to be. But those are 3 ways, getting around having to pay for tail insurance. If you have any questions about your anesthesiologist employment contract or tail insurance concerns, you can always call my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description, or you can reach us through our website, ChelleLaw.com. If you thought this video was helpful, please like, subscribe to the channel. We release videos every single day. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.